Hey, how's it going there, folks? Welcome back here to the end of the weekend. It is Sunday, July 7th, 2024, about 3:19 p.m. here, California time. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D Globe shows looks like a 2.6 out here in the green flag down on the Chile area, it looks like, down in South America. Did see some larger scale movement popping off here a couple hours ago. Goodness, look at that super deep 6.2 earthquake into the Izu Trench. That is that's a super deep one. It's been a while since we've seen any major deep activity like that. There is that 6.2 here, located in the subduction zone of the Izu Trench. 571 kilometers deep there. Now, obviously, a deep earthquake like that not going to be felt by folks up at the surface regions. I'm sure it was felt locally, but obviously, had it been a little bit more shallower, then we'd talk about the potential of seeing it do some damage and whatnot. But there's not a whole lot of population density out here, as you can see. So, with this earthquake, its size, its location, the magnitude there, we've got to watch areas around the northern region of the Filipino plate here. That's this area right here in the kind of a diamond type shape here. Let me show you guys this area right here in the pink salmon area, or kind of reddish color. This area does see a lot of earthquake activity, and the accumulated slip rate here is easily around 60 to 100 mm per year. Notice these arrows here. That's the general direction of the plate movement, and no doubt it's hold on a second here, make sure actually it's quite high, very high area of slip rate, so it doesn't take many years for large earthquake activity to occur out here. Watch areas upstream. General movement here of the plates point in the crunch zone out here around Taiwan, Japan area. The Eurasia plate moving to the southeast, Pacific plate moving off to the northwest, North American plate up here, the major subduction zone there in the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. This area right here, definitely keep an eye upstream here for some further movement potentially. A lot of deep activity here does trigger surface adjustment up here across the area, but depending if there's enough strain up here, we'll see some of that activity or potential strain build here to the northwest and to the western areas around Taiwan. Right now, we're not seeing it. We haven't seen any signs of any adjustment taking place yet. More so up north, though, up into the extreme northern end here of the Kuril-Kamchatka. It looks like we've got a little swarm of activity up there, 5.5 this morning and a 5.5 earlier this afternoon. So, in general, it looks like the northwestern corner here of the Pacific plate is quite active today. Another earthquake coming into the New Guinea area, Papua New Guinea, 4.5 here in the last hour. If we take a look at the Earthquake 3D Globe here, let's see what else we got around the region. Fairly quiet. If you look at the area Philippines southward here, there's not a whole lot going on. Normally this is a major cluster of earthquake activity, and only got a couple threes right now. It's actually very minimal for earthquake multitudes there. Some movement here across the Java Trench, some threes, even a couple fours in this area. Down into the New Zealand area, fairly quiet, aside from a 3.4 South Island area. And we got that super deep earthquake activity once again into the Tonga Trench region. 296 and 462 kilometers for those quakes. All right, let's see what else we got here across the middle of the Pacific. Of course, what goes on here around the Pacific plate has an adverse effect here on the Kilauea volcano. It's a major hotspot out here that sits, the Pacific plate moves over the hotspot, and of course the Hawaii Islands is a hotspot there. And it looks like they're having some decent earthquake activity out here. Let me go over to the USGS map here, stand by for a second, and see what we have going on. Is this the most recent map? It is. The volcano still at a yellow advisory. We'll get to the earthquake activity in a minute, because it looks like things are shifting down to the East Rift Zone, around the lower East Rift Zone there. That could be a bad sign here. Notice that trail. You don't have to, I don't think I have to draw a line here on the map to show you guys what's going on. We got some magma movement out here. Let me go over to the deformation data real quick and see what's up. There's a little interesting event right there. We're seeing a huge spike right here compared to the average background inflation level here. These are maps, graphs indicating deflation. They made an adjustment here, about a week ago, almost a week ago here, and it's hard to say if it's a good adjustment, bad adjustment. Either way, it has smoothed out the data out here, so to speak. Here, either we're still inflating. Obviously, you can't hide in inflation at a volcano, but they did do some type of weird update on this thing on the 2nd. Still going up. So the earthquake activity here, obviously, is leading off here to the southeast area, the East Rift Zone here, where we last seen the 2018 eruption. Now this earthquake activity in general is fairly deep. Looks like 2 kilometers, or excuse me, 4 miles, 2 miles, 4 miles. If we start seeing this get a little bit more shallower, then obviously we got something major going on here that we need to watch for a potential fissure event, eruptive fissure event out here around the East Rift Zone. Similar, maybe what we've seen in 2018. Who knows? But there's a line leading out here from the Kilauea volcano summit area off to this region now, and that's obviously a little concerning. The crater area today, beautiful blue clear sky, a few clouds out there on the Big Island. Doesn't show any elevated activity out here across the crater area in terms of volcanic activity. Let's read the latest informational statement here. The volcano is currently not erupting. Aftershocks, they call that an aftershock here, following that 4.1 yesterday. Aftershocks continue following the 4.1 Kilauea South Flank earthquake that occurred at 8:47 last night. Earthquake counts in the upper East Rift Zone remain above background levels and increased slightly over the last 24 hours. Longer term, gradual inflation of the summit and upper Rift Zones persist since the end of June, but it's been an overall trend here across the Kilauea volcano since 2018. There's no signs of an imminent eruption, but obviously any further escalation of the activity could result in a new eruptive episode. So this update was put out pretty early this morning, 8 o'clock their local time in Hawaii. And this activity stirred up late last night. There's that 4.1. This is kind of interesting here. 7 kilometers there for that one quake. It's an overall sign here of an increasing levels below, obviously, of magma, and the whole dynamics out here is showing a lot more elevated activity than what we've seen out here recently. So this activity, relatively shallow up here across the upper East Rift Zone, could potentially lead to an eruption or some type of fissure event up here. Or we could see a magma displacement pop off here and move off here to the lower East Rift Zone areas. So definitely got some interesting activity here across the volcano right now. Let's see, aside from that 4.1 from last night, mainly 2s and 1s, but the depth of these earthquakes are very important because they're shallow. They're just below the surface here, indicating some magma movement, pressurization here in general, overall across this area. Some earthquakes down around the Pahala area, but this is very typical at the deeper regions here, about 30 kilometers or so. But we'll definitely keep an eye on this because things are getting quite elevated out there across the Pacific. Middle of the Pacific out here, right? Got to think about it. When things move off here, get earthquake activity in the big fashion out here, things adjust and they move accordingly, as they should, in the general plate tectonic theory. And of course, what goes on at the in the middle of the Pacific here. This hot spot has an adverse effect here at the surface levels for volcanic activity. Let's see what we got here for California. A little bit of swarming going on here. I did issue the earthquake watch here for Southern California yesterday because of the elevated movement. There's a little bit of swarming going on here. Baja California area. It does look like it's stirred up northward. Normally we'll see that adjustment. Say if we see earthquake activity down here in the Gulf. Swarms or maybe some 4s or 5s. It is gradually going to work its way up northward here. And it does look like we have a little bit of activity stirring up in the last hour around the Salton Sea area on the Beryl seismic zone. Just shy of the San Andreas Fault, the southern branch. See, you guys see that? So a couple, looks like some very small microquakes, but it does show an overall sign of increasing activity out here in Southern California following this movement from yesterday and today down here. So keep an eye there on Southern California. We'll keep that earthquake watch up here today and see what happens. Up here on the creeping segment of the San Andreas Fault, did see a 3.1 early this morning. So overall, seismic activity on the increasing level out here across Southern California. Cascadia subduction zone, not a whole lot going on there for now. Let me check out the tremor map here, see what's up. See what's going on here for tremor. This is from yesterday. 403 epicenters of tremor, mainly Northern California and the extreme southern coast here of Oregon. That's the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. That's going to be this area right here. And of course, tremor occurring down into the deeper areas of the subduction zone, adding further strain out here across the area of the Cascadia. We've been in somewhat of an elevated event here over the last 5 weeks or so, maybe 6 weeks now. This is the all data here, and you can see these regular occurrences of a tremor. It's been a little while since we've seen an increasing event like we've seen here today, or over the last few weeks. I think the last major one here was back in the end of 2022. So we're continuing to see tremor. We'll check that a little bit later tonight. A lot of earthquake activity here recently across the Gorda Ridge, which is adding further strain across the northern area of the Cascadia. Let me show you guys the earthquake activity in question here. 17 earthquakes of total tally, with a 5.7 being the largest out here around the Gorda Ridge. This is a spreading seafloor center out here in terms of the fault, the plate boundary, meaning that the faults out here are spreading away from each other slowly, obviously, adding further strain out here across the northern end of the Cascadia. But overall, most of the tremor, I feel, has been down here across the southern end, where we could see there's, depending on what segment of the Cascadia you're looking at, the earthquake magnitudes vary, but could be capable of producing an 8.4 down here across this area. Hopefully not, but it's going to happen here one of these days. Earthquake activity at the surface levels here, fairly quiet across Washington. Nothing going on here across Yellowstone National Park for now. Let's go over here and check out the raw data, see what's up. There's the let's see here. That was about 8 hours ago. Which earthquake was that? Definitely wasn't that 6-pointer, right? Because that kicked up here just in the last couple hours. Hey, it's 333. Make a wish. So that earthquake. Let me see here what we got. What happened about 5 or 6 o'clock this morning here? Let's see. I mean, literally, the aside from that 6.2, 5 o'clock this morning, there was a 5.5 in the Curl Kamachaka, but it's kind of weird to see an earthquake signature show up here. I'm talking about this one right here. You can see it on Maple Creek. That actually looks somewhat more of a localized earthquake here. Not directly around these seismograph stations, but somewhat locally around the region. Let's see here. Oops. And there really wasn't nothing around here. There was a 2.6 Nebraska. Maybe that's... No, that's 3 o'clock in the morning, so... Hard to say. We'll have to check back. And I guarantee you it's not going to be a 0.6 here. So, but that's a little odd to see some earthquake activity out here around the South Dakota, Nebraska area. 2.6 this morning, about 3 o'clock. As far as any other earthquake activity aside from that signature there, it looks fairly quiet. I do see the 6-pointer stirred up here in Japan. That showed up obviously thousands of miles away here on this seismograph station in northwest Wyoming, and they do that again right here. But as far as localized activity here, it looks fairly quiet. Not a whole lot of localized immediate earthquake activity around Yellowstone for now. There's an earthquake in Colorado from yesterday. New Madrid seismic zone out here, showing a little bit of movement, a 1.5 and a 2.1 here across this area of Arkansas. Of course, this area is a major seismically hazardous zone here. They've seen some big earthquakes historically, and no doubt we'll see them in the future. Back in the early 1800s, about 1811, 1812, we've seen a series of large earthquakes that was felt all over here across the eastern portion of the country. And an earthquake magnitude of that event today would be damaging, no doubt catastrophic out here across many areas, many states. Not for certain though if we built up that much stress out here yet, but a couple hundred years, right? 1811, well over 200 years there, in terms of strain out there right now. A little bit of movement up into the Canada area, Alaska region outside of Juneau. Some 3 stirred up. Let's see what else we got here across the area. Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet. Mediterranean region looks typical. Some 2s and 3s out there. Some older activity there from yesterday. Right around the Mediterranean region. Look at that super deep earthquake. It looks like we're already seeing some adjustment going on, right? There's that 6.2 super deep. It looks like we got a little bit of earthquake activity with a 4.5 coming in now, but it's still deep in this area. That's 398 kilometers deep. So overall strain out here is increasing big time. These are super deep earthquakes. They're into the trench zone. And got to remember, this deeper activity does lead to surface adjustment upstream, but also applying further strain out here across this area. So keep an eye here on the Filipino plate. It's looking quite active in the deeper areas right now. All right, space weather activity. Looks like we got a little M flare activity out there on the far eastern regions of the sun. Look at that. Huge old flare. I think that's pretty much looks like a long duration flare event right now. M2.4. It is creating a little bit of radio blackout here on the sunlit side of the Earth, centered around Hawaii, over the central Pacific here. It's got to be coming off of those far side sunspots, right? Remember those ones I was talking about here yesterday? Looks like we're barely getting a little visual of them. Barely. So we know this area obviously is still quite active. Those are the former regions here that were developing and growing last time they were out here on the Earth-facing side of the sun. So they did a full loop around the sun, far side of the sun, and now we're getting a little visual of what they're capable of right now. I think that'll be a very active region here in the coming days as it progresses further into the Earth-directed view. Still got to keep an eye here on this area, although I'm noticing a little bit of split here within the center core of this sunspot. That's not normally a good sign if you want anything flaring out here from this individual sunspot, but we'll watch that. That's 3738. The far side regions there got a little ways to go before they're into the a little bit more Earth-directed view, but it's flaring. Look at that beautiful M flare, long duration M flare out there right now. In fact, I think I'm going to screenshot that, keep it as a beautiful thumbnail. Look at that. Can't beat that. That's Actually, quite often. Quite awesome. All right, let's see what else we have here. No major wars in the forecast. Hopefully that will change here in the coming days as we get some more active regions. Flare events, there's that M2.4. That's kicking up. Still flaring, though. It's a long duration event. All right, let's talk about hurricanes. Oh, goodness, getting close there, aren't we? Getting close to the Texas coast. Let's go over here to the latest information here on the activity, where we're looking at Tropical Storm Beryl. Now, it hasn't developed yet into a hurricane, at least according to this graph. 65 mile per hour sustained winds. There is hurricane warnings in effect here from looks like Galveston area all the way down to the Corpus Christi region. It is moving off to the northwest at about 12 miles per hour. It's taking a little bit more northerly turn here. Little uncertainty on if this thing is going to develop into a hurricane or not. I mean, it's got some warm ocean waters, right? Definitely not an issue down there in the Gulf of Mexico. But most of the forecast models here are forecasting it to remain a tropical storm, with only a couple indicative here of a potential hurricane status before landfall there around the Texas coast. Most of them holding steady there into the tropical storm department. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, it almost, look at this though. We are getting that major convection going on the south side of the area of circulation. Now, still over ocean waters. Here's the Texas coastline right here. The only bad thing about this, if it maybe doesn't decide to go to hurricane status, and that's probably good, right? I don't want to see a major hurricane out here. I was just down here last month. Beautiful area. I love it. Love seafood. And it's sucking in, it looks like some warm waters here. The closer it gets to land, obviously it could become an issue because of the drier land, the drier air mass out here. So that could keep it at bay, but it does have the potential. It does look like it's starting to, look at that arrow right there. You can almost follow the area of circulation and convection up around the area. Right here, the area of circulation. This is obviously the strongest side of that hurricane, and it does have, a somewhat of a 50-50 chance there of becoming a hurricane before landfall. The official statements here, let's see. Beryl is forecast to bring damaging hurricane-force winds to portions of the Texas coast tonight and early Monday morning. So, just kind of watching this, seeing if it does kick back up or not. There is the forecast. Look at the forecast peak storm surge. Not for sure what's going on with that one. It looks a little bit... All right, well, this is the potential storm surge flooding, right? Obviously, the waves are going to come in, going to get that higher wave level. Greater than 3 feet above ground here across portions where I was just at. Goodness. Lake Jackson, Surfside Beach. This area, some areas greater than a foot above the ground here inland. But that's definitely some decent storm surge coming in. Not historically not as high as what we've seen with some other hurricanes, but this is still a tropical storm, and they're saying up to 7 feet here across this area. Hopefully, it's not that high, but goodness, less upwards. Less away from this area. Obviously, up to 6 feet in the yellow, up to 7 feet here in the orange, 3 feet across the area south and north. Obviously, when you get a major hurricane, a tropical storm of any nature out there in the Gulf, stirring up the waters, it affects the the waves and whatnot. Pretty crazy, the storm surge. So we'll continue to watch that. It is, getting awfully close. Let's see what we got here for the radar map down here. Here's satellite view. Beautiful, right? But the most dangerous area is right around that area of circulation. Yeah, it's getting some circulation going on there for sure. So definitely be on guard if you're out here across the Texas coast. Not a huge event, but it is nonetheless can bring some dangerous storm surge and some high winds out there. Was it 65 mile per hour sustained winds right now with that tropical storm? So we'll watch these watch the developing stage here, as I'm not for sure what the heck this is. Wow. Okay, I've never seen that here. It's a little interesting. I know it's not a hurricane, right? Nope, but something's out there. The weather radar is picking up a giant UFO out there in Mexico. Who knows? All right, guys. I'm out of here. Have yourself a good day. Sorry I didn't get to get an update in last night. Got caught up hanging out with a few friends out here. And, it's good to hang out and do some fun stuff once in a while. The heat was killing me, so I decided to hang out with some friends and try to stay cool to an extent. But didn't get a chance to do an update last night. We'll keep an eye here on the Filipino plate. Obviously, some super deep earthquake activity triggering out there. Watch for some surface adjustment. I guarantee you we'll see that here within the next, probably who knows? Maybe in the next 12 hours we'll see some earthquake activity develop upstream here. Sometimes it's almost immediately, like an hour or so later following the deeper activity, we'll see surface adjustment going on. All right, folks, have a good one. Stay safe. It's going to be another hot one out here in Northern California. Goodness. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening. Stay safe.